Hello, everyone. I'm Kamraun.
And I'm Billy. Welcome to the Horse Frog Podcast, home of your two favorite professional digressors.
Today, we will be discussing Book 2, Chapter 11 of Memories of Ice, a novel in the Malazan Book of the Fallen. This is part 1 of our coverage of this chapter.
This podcast series is intended to be a companion to reading or listening to the books set in the Malazan universe. It's not a book review, and it's most definitely not intended to be a replacement to reading the books. Both Kamraun and I know that this series is the best fantasy story ever written, and we're approaching this from a purely fanboy point of view. There'll be no critique of Mr. Erikson's fabulous world.
We'll be covering the events of the books in a linear fashion. There will be spoilers for those that haven't read the books. We'll try not to spoil anything prior to us covering that portion of the respective book.
A quick warning, today's episode contains descriptions of extreme violence, and thus is not suitable for children.
Thus.
Or therefore.
Our show is listener supported. If you'd like to support us, we'd really appreciate it. You can do so by visiting our Patreon link on our website at horsefrogproductions.com. Currently, we're posting ad-free episodes on Patreon weekly.
And also, we would really like to hear from you, and we do mean that despite the earlier Spotify issue. So sorry. So send any feedback or comments that you have to contact@horsefrogproductions.com.
All right, Chapter 11. The chapter begins with an excerpt. Quote, "The Malazan military's vaunted ability to adapt to whatever style of warfare the opposition offered was in fact superficial. Behind the illusion of malleability, there remained a hard certainty in the supremacy of the imperial way. Contributing to that illusion of flexibility was the sheer resiliency of the Malazan military structure, and a foundation bolstered by profound knowledge and insightful analysis of disparate and numerous styles of warfare." End quote. And this was from Abstract, Part 27, Book 7, Volume 9, on Tumul's 13-page treatise, Malazan Warfare, by Enit Obar the Lifeless. I imagine if he had 27 parts in Book 7, he had no life. Volume 9.
Yeah. Where have we heard the name Timo before? Haven't we heard that before?
Isn't he one of the Wiccans?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yes.
Yeah, he was the Wiccan youth that led the remaining Wiccan into Aaron.
Yeah. Oh, my word. Okay. Thank you. Yes.
Was it Aaron?
Okay.
Aaron,
Wow.
right?
Yes. Wow. So he got stuck in the intellectual world. I'm so sorry, Timo.
He had a 13-page treatise of some type.
Well, okay.
On this quote, given what we saw in Deadhouse Gates and the way the soldiers obeyed Coltane to the end, and also how Dujak's ranks stuck with him even through the outlawing of their army, I would agree that the resilience of the military structure is critical to their success.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, again, I'm so blown away by him. I have to thank you so much for turning me on to this kind of books. I had never had read what is called a military fantasy before. And this is given that. And we've seen two different styles from both first two books. You had the stuff that was going on in Pale versus the stuff, the running campaign of the Wiccans. It's amazing, these different styles. But yes, the fact that it is rigid, but at the same time flexible. You know, it's carbon fiber, dude. It's got that rigidity and strength, but it's very light and able to bend and go with it.
It's interesting. After hearing about the bridge burners knifing inept officers in the back, I was under the impression that the structure was a little more loose. Yeah. And maybe they were simply upholding their structure to the implied standard within the bridge burners.
See, I think that's a lot of what that is that there's the Malazan way of doing things, and then there's the bridge burners way of doing things within the Malazan things. And yeah, they had their code of conduct, apparently, a very rigid code of conduct, strangely enough. And yeah, I think it caught a bunch of folks a knife in the back. And I'm like you, I read that as loose structure, and I think it's a little more rigid than we thought.
I think it was the people that were getting knifed were people that were probably nepotism-based promotions.
Yes.
From the noble families.
Yes, I was going to say exactly that. Just all that. That's what Perrin was fussing about. You know, he's like one of the only decent nobles. I think we run into one or two more that are fairly honorable, decent nobles in the series. If I'm not mistaken, I may be thinking about Elsamont, but that's few and far between.
Mm-hmm. We are taken to the bridge burners. Spindle's hair shirt had caught fire. Eyes watering and coughing at the foul stench, Picker watched Spindle rolling back and forth on the dusty ground beside the fire pit. Smoke snaked from smoldering hair. Curses rode sparks up into the night air. Since everyone else was too busy laughing, Picker reached over to collect a water skin, which she wedged between her knees. Unstopping the spout and pressing her thighs together, she tracked Spindle with the lone stream of water until she heard hissing sounds. Spindle shrieked, all right, stop, I'm drowning. I bet that shirt absolutely smells foul. The foulest thing you can imagine now.
Get that fella a bottle of Head and Shoulders for that shirt, please.
I don't even know if that's something.
No, not with this, not the burnt. I've smelt burnt hair before. They already talked about how bad the thing stinks to begin with, and then you toss the burnt hair on top of that. It's like, I can almost smell that.
Nasty. Why do you think Picker held the water skin in this manner?
I'm assuming it's kind of like a squirt gun. She's using her legs like a bellows to squeeze it real hard while she just can hold that top part like a hose and just hose him down. And
okay.
Yes, what a bunch of lunatics, man.
What a way to start the chapter.
Right?
Convulsed in his own fits, Hedge had rolled perilously close to the flames. Picker stretched out one booted foot and kicked him. She snapped, everyone calm down, before the whole squad gets burnt crispy. Hood's breath. In the gloom at her side, Blen said, we're dying of boredom, Corporal. That's the problem. Picker said, if boredom was fatal, there wouldn't be a soldier alive on this whole world, Blend. Feeble excuse. The problem's simple. Starting with the sergeant writhing around over there. The whole Opon Curse squad is insane.
Just real quick, if this was a movie or something, who do you see playing Blend? I've got someone very in mind.
Oh, you mentioned Kristen Ritter, right?
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's Kristen Ritter, yes. I'm sorry, whatever. She's like, we're just so bored.
I didn't have a good image of her until you said that, but that is beautiful casting. And now she's starting to look like that to me in my head.
I know it, dude. Oh,
it's so good.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad I was able to infect you with that, so you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Sometimes they just fit.
Yeah, exactly.
Blen said, except for you, of course. And this in reference to Picker saying the whole Opon Curse squad is insane.
Oh, yeah.
Picker interrupted. You kissing my dung-stained boots, lass? Wrong move. I'm crazier than the rest of you. If I wasn't, I'd have run off long ago. Gods, look at these idiots. Got a mage wearing his dead mother's hair, and every time he opens his warren, we get attacked by snarling ground squirrels. Got a sapper with permanent flash burns whose bladder must be a warren unto itself, since I ain't seen him wander off once in his 3 days running now at this camp. Got a napped woman being stalked by a rogue veteran bull that's either blind or sees more than we do when he looks at her. And then there's a healer who went and got himself so badly sunburned he's running a fever. Blen murmured, don't bother mentioning Ansi. The sergeant would top anyone's list as a wall-eyed lunatic. Again, Picker interrupted. I wasn't done. Got a woman who likes sneaking up on her friends. And finally, dear old Ansi. Nerves of cold iron, that one. Convinced the gods themselves has snatched Quick Ben, and it's all Ansi's own fault. Somehow. What a bunch of lunatics. I think it's funny that Picker interpreted Blen's comment as butt kissing. I took it as sarcasm when she said that.
Yeah, I took it as that also. But my word, these people. What 2 pages of the notes, and it's just hysterically funny. I think every time I think of the bridge burners in particular, I know it's really more like our core guys like Whiskey Jack and Fid and the Hedge, but this is the group that I really always think about because of the shenanigans, the constant, non-stop shenanigans, man.
Yeah, because Kalam and Quick Ben, they're very serious. You don't have as much of the shenanigans on that side of the bridge burners.
Yeah.
Trotz doesn't talk much at all.
But he's a master of one-liners, though. Sometimes he says
one-liners
the
people
right.
don't understand.
Sometimes he drops the. Yes, I hate them. I think they're great when he drops them in there sometimes, but yeah, these guys are hilarious though.
Picker reached up and slipped a finger under the torques on her arm, her scowl deepening. She said, as if the gods care a whit about Quick Ben, never mind the sergeant himself, as if they take note of any of us no matter what we do. Blend asked, Treach's torques bothering you, Corporal? Picker murmured, careful, Blend. I ain't in the mood. Sodden and miserable, Spindle was climbing to his feet. He hissed, evil spark. Finger flicked like a burning booger. There's malevolent spirits lurking about. Mark my words. Picker snorted, mark 'em. I'll carve 'em into your gravestone, Spindle. And that's a hood-blown promise. Hedge exclaimed, gods, what a stink. I doubt even a grease-smeared barghast will come near you. I say we should vote. The whole squad, I mean. Vote to tear that disgusting shirt off Spindle's pimply back and bury it somewhere. Ideally under a few tons of rubble. What say you, Sergeant? Ansi? Ansi sat at the very edge of the firelight. He hissed, "Shh! Something's out there." Picker said, "If it's another angry squirrel." Spindle growled, "I ain't done nothing, and nobody's gonna bury my shirt, not while I'm still breathing anyway. So forget it, Sapper. Besides, we don't vote on nothing in this squad. Hood knows what Whiskey Jack let you idiots do back in the 9th, but you ain't in the 9th anymore, are ya?" Ansi snarled, "Be quiet! Someone's out there, snuffling around." A huge shape loomed into view directly in front of Ansi, who let out a yelp and leapt back, almost stumbling into the fire in his gibbering retreat. Man, how many people have fallen in the fire almost?
Oh, my
3 different
word.
people?
Yeah, these guys. They're the Marx Brothers.
Head shouted, "It's that veteran bull! Hey, Deteran, your date's arrived. Ow! Gods, what did you just hit me with, woman? A mace? A hood cursed your fist? Liar. Ansi, this soldier almost broke my head. Can't take a joke. Ow! Ow!" Picker said, "Leave off him. Someone shoo that beast away." Blen chortled, "This I gotta see. 2,000 pounds of horns, hooves, and cock." Picker said, "Enough of that. There's delicate ears present, lass. Look, you got Deteran all blushing in between punching heads senseless." I tell you, it's like trying to keep the kids under control when they get wild. This whole scenario, it's just devolving so quickly.
I think the kids would be easier to keep in line than this bunch. These are professional, what would we call them?
Rabble rousers.
Professional scoundrels almost? Rabble rousers. Professional rabble.
Yeah. Blen said, "I'd say the high color was exertion, Corporal. The Sapper's got some good dodging tactics." "Oh, well, all right, so he missed slipping that one. Ouch." Picker bellowed, "Ease up, Deteran. He ain't seeing straight anymore as it is, and you'd better start hoping it ain't permanent damage you done there." Spindle said, "Aye. The lad's got cussers in that bag of his, and if he can't throw straight," that was enough to make Deteran drop her fists and step back. Hedge reeled about drunkenly, then sat with a heavy thump, blood streaming from his broken nose. He mumbled, "Can't take a joke," through puffed lips. A moment later, he keeled over. Picker muttered, "Terrific. If he ain't come to in the morning and we gotta march, guess who's pulling the travois, Deteran?" Deteran scowled and turned away to find her bedroll. Mallet tottered up, wrapped in a blanket. He asked, "Who's injured? I heard punching." Spindle said, "The boiled crayfish is awake. Guess you won't nap on any more sunward hillsides, eh, healer?" Picker said, "It's Hedge. Rubbed Deteran's fur the wrong way. Slumped by the fire. See him?" Nodding, Mallet hobbled to Hedge's side. He said, "Alarming image you conjured there, Corporal." He crouched, began examining Hedge, and exclaimed, "Hood's breath, busted nose, fractured jaw, and concussed, too.
Yeah.
The man's done a quiet puke." Man, she really messed him up. I guess you shouldn't mess around with those Malazan heavy units.
I forgot she hurt him so bad.
Yeah.
That's brutal. I mean, and it didn't seem like she was even on him that long, just whooping up on him. And everyone's like, "Dude, ease up," and he eased up. And he even sits up and goes, "Man, can't take a joke." And then faints.
Yeah. Head injuries are like that.
Yeah. And they call him Lad. I think Picker's always older than I think he probably is. I forget him and Fid are probably pretty youngsters. Him, Perrin and them are all in their 20s, right? Mid to late 20s for Hedge and Fid, and early 20s for Perrin, right?
Yes, early 20s for Perrin, and I think Fid was 15 when Perrin was a kid at the beginning of Gardens of the Moon.
12?
They're probably still in their high 20s, him and Hedge.
Okay, so I for some reason I see Hedge. I always see Hedge and Fid as older for some reason. I always forget they're as young as they are.
Well, remember that these books span a number of years.
Sure, even reading them younger, I still think of them as older because of what they've already been through before we even meet them.
Yeah, but if you go to years of warfare, it's going to age you pretty quick.
Yeah, it does.
Active warfare.
Yeah.
Mallet glared over at Picker and said, "Didn't anybody think to stop this little argument?" With a soft grunt, the veteran bull wheeled away and thumped off into the darkness. Mallet's head snapped around. He asked, "What by Feiner's hoof was that?" Blen murmured, "Hedge's rival. Probably saw enough to take his chances elsewhere." Sighing, Picker leaned back, watching Mallet tend to the unconscious sapper. She thought, "Squaw's not gelling too good. Ansi ain't no Whiskey Jack. Spindle ain't Quick Ben, and I ain't no Corporal Kalam neither. If there was a best of the best among the bridge burners, it was the 9th. Mind you, Deteran could stand toe-to-toe with Trotz." After a time, Blen murmured, "That wizard had better show up soon." Picker nodded in the darkness, then said, "Might be the captain and the rest are with the white faces already. Might be Quick Ben and us'll come too late to make any difference in the outcome." Blen said, we won't make any difference anyway. What you mean is we'll be too late to see the spectacle. Picker said, could be a good thing, that. Blen said, you're starting to sound like Antsy. Under her breath, Picker said, yeah, well, things ain't looking too good. The company's best mage has disappeared. Add that to a green noble-born captain and Whiskey Jack gone, and what do you know? We ain't the company we once was. Blen said, not since Pale, that's for sure. Visions of the chaos and horror in the tunnels the day of the enfilade returned to Picker. She grimaced and said, betrayed by our own. That's the worst thing there is, Blend. I can take falling to enemy swords, or mage fire, or even demons tearing me limb from limb. But to have one of your own flash the knife when your back's turned, she spat into the fire. Blend said, it broke us. Picker nodded again. That would be a very difficult thing to reconcile mentally, thinking that the empire that you're loyal to is trying to kill you.
Yeah, that would be very disconcerting. All these folks cut out and not in on this. Well, we don't even really know what the story is yet either. So
the bridge burners in particular, with those tunnels collapsing on them and them blaming Taishran, from their perspective, after they've done so much for the empire, that would be a really tough pill to swallow.
Oh yeah.
All their friends, and that's close friends that they went into battle with.
Yes.
Granted, they're not really getting along here because they're idle right now, but when the time comes, they gel again. Yeah,
they just need one of those good sergeants that's while they're bored and has them digging latrines and doing other crap. It's like, okay, you know what? You go dig, you drop and give me 1,000. You know, it's kind of stuff. They need one of those guys there. That's it. When they're bored, they do stupid stuff, and you're right.
Yeah, so they can hate the sergeant instead of the fellow soldier.
Yes, exactly. And then, like you said, once the action kicks in, these guys just click right in place, man. We know that. They've been together too long to not.
Mm-hmm. Blend continued. Maybe Trost losing his contest with the White Faces and us getting executed one and all might be a good thing. Barghast allies or not, I ain't looking forward to this war. Pigger stared into the flames. She said, you're thinking of what might happen when we next step into battle. Blend said, we're brittle, Corporal, riven with cracks. Pigger said, got no one to trust, that's the problem. Got nothing to fight for. Blend said, there's Dujek to answer both of those. Pigger said, I, our renegade fist. Blend softly snorted. Pigger glanced over her friend and frowned. She asked, what? In a low voice, Blend said, he ain't no renegade. We're only cut loose 'cause of Brood and the Tistandi, 'cause we couldn't have managed the parley otherwise. Ain't you wondered, Corporal, who that new standard bearer of One-Arms is? Pigger said, what's his name? Arental? Artanthos. Huh, he showed up, Blend interrupted, about a day after the outlawry proclamation. Picker asked, so? Who do you think he is, Blend? Blend said, a top-ranking claw is my wager, here at the command of the Empress. And that's an interesting theory. Remember that the Maib saw swirls of power surrounding Artanthos at the same meeting where Kalor attempted to get Rake to kill Silver Fox upon Rake's arrival at Brood's camp.
I do remember her seeing that stuff, the Maib seeing the power swirling off of him. That's about all I remember, though.
Also, the Maib noticed that Artanthos flinched during a discussion about Silver Fox's creation, specifically when they mentioned Tattersail's death.
Right. I remember that, too. Okay.
So there's a couple things going on there.
Got some proof of something.
Picker asked, you got proof of that? Blend said, no. Picker swung her scowl back to the fire and asked, now who's jumping at shadows? Blend said, we're no renegades. We're doing the Empire's bidding, Corporal, no matter how it looks. Whiskey Jack knows too, and maybe so does that healer over there, and Quick Ben. Picker said, you mean the 9th? Blend said, aye. Her scowl deepening, Picker rose, strode to Mallet's side, and crouched down. She quietly asked, how's the sapper, healer? Mallet said, not as bad as it first looked. Mild concussion. A good thing. I'm having trouble drawing on my Denul Warren. Picker asked, trouble? What kind of trouble? Mallet said, not sure. It's gone foul, somehow. Infected by something. Spindle's got the same problem with his Warren. Might be what's delaying Quick Ben. Picker grunted, then said, could have mentioned that at the start, Mallet. Mallet said, too busy recovering from my sunburn, Corporal. Picker's eyes narrowed. She asked, if not sun scorching you, then what happened? Mallet said, whatever's poisoned my Warren can cross over, or so I found. So it's not a sunburn after all? It's the infection in the Warrens that caused the fever that he has?
Yeah, that sucks because we need him to be a healer. So anytime he wants to try and use supernatural healing, he's going to get hurt. That's not cool.
Yeah, there's going to be some implications to this. I think I'll talk about it a little bit later in this section here.
Yeah.
After a moment, Picker said, Mallet, there's a rumor going around says we maybe ain't as outlawed as Dujek and Whiskey Jack are making out. Maybe the Empress nodded her head in our direction, in fact. In the firelight, Mallet's round face was blank as he shrugged and said, "That's a new one to me, Corporal. Sounds like something Antsy would think up." Picker said, "No, but he'll love it when he hears it." Mallet asked, "Now why would you do that?" Picker raised her brows and said, "Why would I tell Antsy? The answer should be obvious, Healer. I love watching him panic. Besides, it's just an empty rumor, right?" That's pretty messed up, getting him all riled up like that.
Well, I'm assuming when Antsy gets riled up, it's pretty funny. Or at least it is this one. And so... and it is messed up, but it's also on par for this group, though.
Yeah. Never show your weakness.
Yes. It's funny because my father, who is the sweetest man on the planet, really, there was a mechanic that used to work for us when I was little, when I was real young. And this guy was really nervous about, he's a big fella, and he's scared of spiders real bad. My dad just thought that was the funniest thing. And he'd just go like throw a rag into the floor, goes, "Spider!" And Marlon like bust his head open.
Oh, man.
Hitting the rat, trying. So my dad eased up because Marlon about to split his skull. Not bad enough to get stitches, but he hurt himself one time. He's like, "Oh, I got to stop that." But he was so jumpy, he'd about be out in the middle of the road before you could stop him. So it's like, we got to stop doing that. But some people have those reactions. And so the other one that my dad did to the same guy, you know those firecrackers that you pull them apart and they pop?
Yes.
So you put those, he's working on a car. Marlon got a phone call. He goes to get the phone. And so my dad goes in there, and from what I didn't see this, I was just told about this. And he lowered the hood, put those on the hood, put the hood down. And Marlon comes out of the garage and looking around like he lowered the hood, pops it up, about has a heart attack when that thing goes off.
Sounds like your dad's a trickster.
He is. He tries not to be, and I'm kind of the same way. That's why I kind of poke the bear sometimes when I talk with people. I don't mean to be that way. Sometimes it just gets the better of me, and it's just, it's that old carnal nature getting up on me, Kamraun. I got to sometimes give into it, man.
I think my daughter has that trickster gene because she likes to mess with me pretty bad.
Oh, sorry.
It'll be nighttime. I'm going through my go to sleep checks, like make sure all the doors are locked and everything.
Right.
And I'll turn and I'll be looking down the hallway, and then she'll be in like the upside down crawling position from The Exorcist and like start running towards me. It's not funny at all. It gets me every time. It's terrible, dude.
Good golly. Oh, my word. Okay.
You know, on that arachnophobia point.
Dude, I got it, dude. Oh, it's worse that I've gotten older, man. I used to not be so bad with them, Kamraun.
Arachnophobia?
Yes, I'm getting bad with the spiders, man. And I've showed you because we got some black widows, but we got the big house spiders here. Now, I've had them in Garland, but they're here in the hill country. They're a little significantly larger. And the first one I saw one in this house, I wasn't married to Christy yet. We were talking on the phone, and I about had an anxiety attack. It's so big. I was like, okay, you got to stay on the phone while I find a way to kill this fella. And I finally got around to it. But it's kind of got me wigged out sometimes here because we got a lot of spiders in this country. So
I was going to say, there's a video game, I forget what it's called, but I think you do these missions where you deal with paranormal things.
Okay.
It's like a cleanup crew type thing. I forget exactly the mission structure, but it's got voice-based speech. So it's proximity. So when you're talking to somebody, if they're farther away, you can't hear them very well, but if they're close to you, you can hear them. And so they added in a setting, because they put spiders in the game, where if you're really afraid of spiders, even through the computer screen, because some people it's that bad for them, you can turn the arachnophobia setting on, and it's just words. It'll say spider in text on the screen. Hilarious, dude.
I love it, dude.
That's crazy, man. I couldn't believe it's that bad for some people, seeing it on a screen even.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I can take it. I can take it, but it's it gets me. I mean, I can feel it start to bristle up on me, but I'm okay. But I don't know what it is. Sometimes I see them and they just get me, and it's like, whoa. But yeah,
I feel kind of bad killing them. We get these big wolf spiders in the houses periodically.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I don't like killing them, but I don't have a good way of removing them, and everybody else in the house is definitely afraid of them. And also, I don't want to accidentally get bitten by a brown recluse or something, because that's what I'm worried about, is having to deal with that.
Well, I sent that picture. We got black widows here. I sent that bad boy to you. Didn't I send that bad boy to you? Okay.
Yeah. I've encountered a couple of those in my life, too.
That's really the only place I've ever seen one in my life, really, was here. I've never seen, I know that we had them down there in North Texas, but I think they're a lot worse here. But now, like I say, let's move along.
Okay.
Move along, sorry.
Pigger stood and said, "Make sure the sapper's ready to march tomorrow." Mallet asked, "We going somewhere, Corporal?" Picker said, in case the maid shows up. Mallet said, right, I'll do what I can. We go to Quick Ben. Hands clawing rotted, stained energy, he dragged himself from his warren and staggered forward a few paces, until the clear night air flowed into his lungs and he halted, waiting for his thoughts to clear. The last half-day had been spent in a desperate, seemingly endless struggle to extricate himself from Hood's realm, yet he knew it would be the least poisoned among all the warrens he commonly used. The others would have killed him. The realization left him feeling bereft. A mage stripped of his power, his vast command of his own discipline made meaningless, impotent. To the thing that I wanted to come back to, the mages losing access to their warrens, in the context of our prior conversation, it was the healer not being able to heal.
Yes.
But any mage, really. That'd be like a superhero losing their powers.
Yeah.
If you think to any movies where that happened, that's always a really hard time because they're used to having it, but then they go through such a period of growth because they're forced to think of ways to handle things outside of those powers.
Right.
That personal growth happens then.
I agree with you. That's a very, like a superhero is in its powers here. But this is, especially in this world where we've come to see the importance of the mage in the military structure, this can be a game changer for the enemy. If we're out some people that are kind of like some walking superheroes, walking around flinging some big powers like that, and not being able to, you're counting on it, you can't do it because they're going to be hurt by doing it. So it takes away something. It takes away one of your resources too.
Right. The only consolation is both sides are being affected equally.
Are the Panions affected equally?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know.
I don't know if we have confirmation on that yet.
Oh, I guess if they're not using chaotic powers, if they're not willing to delve into that.
All that we've seen them use is a horde of mindless rabble. I mean, that's all that we're aware of that we've seen. We know there's military there somewhere because we met a couple of their military with Envy and company when they busted up that temple. Then there was that group that was, when Talk went with the mob there, that was a mindless mob. And that's kind of my impression of the military majority is a rabble. I've not seen them use magic from what we've seen either, so.
Yeah, we haven't seen any usage of magic from them. But the characterization of the Panion military as rabble, that's only the Tenascauri horde. There was the vaunted 100,000, that was all the Beta-Clites and the whatever other names they had, right?
Yeah, the Erdeman and Seardaman and all that stuff.
Those sound like legit military structure.
Yes.
And they're all honor bound. It sounds like they could be quite formidable.
They do sound formidable, but I think what makes them scary is their mob that they let. It's like having a horde of zombies almost. Mm-hmm. It's like, we're going to keep ourselves in reserves. And so, they have this huge crowd that our people have to fight through before they have to fight the real military. That's a bad deal.
Right. 1,000 paces to the north, beyond the scrub brush and grassy humps, rose a line of hills. Dull yellow firelight bathed the base of the nearest hill. Quick Ben sighed. He'd been unable to establish Sorcerer's contact with anyone since beginning his journey. He thought, Perrin's left me a squad, better than I could have hoped for. I wonder how many days we've lost. I was supposed to be Trot's backup in case things went wrong. He shook himself and strode forward, still fighting the remnants of the enervating influence of Hood's infected warren. He thought, this is the crippled god's assault, a war against the warrens themselves. Sorcery was the sword that struck him down. Now he seeks to destroy that weapon, and so leave his enemies unarmed, helpless. Quick Ben drew his ash-stained cloak about him as he walked. He thought, no, not entirely helpless. We've our wits. More, we can sniff out a feint. At least I can, anyway. And this is a feint. The whole Panion Daemon and its infectious influence. Somehow the Chained Ones found a way to open the floodgates of the Warren of Chaos. A conduit. Perhaps the Panion Seer himself entirely unaware that he is being used. That he's no more than a pawn thrown forward in an opening gambit. A gambit designed to test the will, the efficacy of his foe. We need to take the pawn down. Fast. Decisively. I was thinking, maybe the crippled god's power isn't chaos. He just found a way to use it to hurt the other warrens.
That's kind of what it sounds like to me there.
I was thinking it was possible that since he came from another realm entirely, that maybe the nature of his power manifested as chaos, but I think he's just found his little back door into the game because he is chained in place, can't do anything, and this accessing chaos and allowing it to spread through the Warrens was his only means of fighting back.
And it's brilliant. It's quite brilliant. Like Quick Ben said, if it's sorcery that took him down, if he destroys the weapon, then leaving them helpless. I mean, that's quite brilliant.
Yeah. Quickbend approached the squad's firelight, heard the low mutter of voices, and felt he was coming home. We are taken somewhere else. 1,000 skulls on poles danced along the ridge, their burning braids of oil-soaked grass creating manes of flame above the bleached death grimaces. Voices rose and fell in a wavering, droning song. Closer to where Perrin stood, young warriors contested with short hook-bladed knives, the occasional spatter of blood sizzling as it sprayed into the clan's hearth ring. Rivalries took precedence over all else, it seemed. I'm excited to see some of the Barghast culture described here.
Oh, yeah, I agree. We've been talking about these fellas for a while. We've never really met them. So I'm like you. I'm pretty excited.
I bet it would be a really cool sight with those skulls and the burning braids of grass being used in the ritual at night.
Yeah, I would say a little morbid maybe, but also probably a little cool too.
I thought it would look neat.
On the screen, it would be great.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I'm not saying
in
we
real
need to
life, no
recreate
thank you.
this. Barghast women moved among the bridge-burner squads, pulling soldiers of both sexes towards the hide tents of the encampment. Perrin had thought to prohibit such amorous contact, but had then dismissed the notion as both unworkable and unwise. He thought, come tomorrow or the day after, we might all be dead. The clans of the Whiteface had gathered. Tents and yurts of the Sinan, Gilk, Akrada, and Baran tribes, as well as many others, covered the valley floor. Perrin judged that 100,000 Barghast had heeded Humbrol Tar's call to council. But not just council, he thought, they've come to answer Trot's challenge. He is the last of his own clan, and tattooed on his scarred body is the history of his tribe, a tale 500 generations long. He comes claiming kinship, blood ties knotted at the very beginning. And more, though no one's explaining precisely what else is involved. Taciturn bastards. There are too many secrets at work here. A Nithrithal warrior loosed a wet shriek as a rival clan's warrior opened his throat with a hook knife. Voices bellowed, cursed. The stricken warrior writhed on the ground before the hearth fire, life spilling out in a glimmering pool that spread out beneath him. His slayer strutted circles to wild cheers. I was surprised that these contests are life and death, not just first draw to blood. That's some serious stuff there.
It's serious, and I think it's kind of stupid. You'd lose some of your best warriors in these kind of interactions. Just because one of your warriors who might be one of the best might have a bad slip or something like that, and he gets killed. And it's like, oh, man, that's kind of silly. But I understand these are the tribal peoples, man.
Yeah, it's like the macho thing taken way too far.
Yeah.
Life or death insult.
Yeah. And it's probably something real silly, too. It's like Klingons, dude. You looked at me funny.
Amidst hisses from those Barghast nearby, Twist came to Perrin's side, the Black Moranth ignoring the curses. Perrin said, "You're not too popular. I didn't know the Moranth hunted this far east." Twist said, "We do not. The enmity is ancient, born of memories, not experience. The memories are false." Perrin said, "Are they now? I suggest you make no effort at informing them of your opinion." Twist said, "Indeed, there is no point, Captain. I am curious, this warrior, Trot, is he uniquely skilled as a fighter?" Perrin grimaced and said, "He's come through a lot of nasty scrapes. He can hold his own, I suppose. To be honest, I've never seen him fight." Twist asked, "And those among the bridge-burners who have?" Perrin said, "Disparaging, of course. They disparage everything, however, so I don't think that's a reliable opinion. We will see soon enough." Imagine that. Haters are going to hate.
Yep. I just love these guys, and I love that answer from Perrin. I don't know. I guess we're going to find out if he can fight or not.
Mm-hmm. Twist said, "Humbrol Tar has selected his champion, one of his sons." Perrin squinted through the darkness at Twist and asked, "Where did you hear this? Do you understand the Barghast language?" Twist said, "It is related to our own. The news of the selection is upon everyone's lips. Humbrol's youngest son, as yet unnamed, still 2 moons before his death night, his passage into adulthood, born with blades in his hands, undefeated in duel, even when facing seasoned warriors, dark-hearted, without mercy." The descriptions continued, but I tire of repeating them. "We shall see this formidable youth soon enough. All else is naught but wasted breath." Perrin said, "I still don't understand the need for the duel in the first place. Tross doesn't need to make any claim. The history is writ plain on his skin. Why should there be any doubt as to its veracity? He's Barghast through and through. You just have to look at him." Twist said, "He makes claim to leadership, Captain. His tribe's history sets his lineage as that of the first founders. His blood is purer than the blood of these clans, and so he must make challenge to affirm his status." That's quite the claim. I wonder how he found himself in the situation where he's the last one of his clan remaining.
I know it, but the other thing here is that he's more pure blood than these other guys. Is pretty wild too. It's like, wow, okay. I always kind of got the idea because Trots was with the Malazans. Maybe it's like how some of the tribal peoples might be like, you know what, there's no life for us here. We're not making any money. Maybe you just need to go join like the military. I thought it was some kind of move like that. Just one of the poor sons who's not too smart to do on his own. They just sent him out to go join the Malazan military or something. I got no idea.
I was thinking about this activity of these Barghast women getting all these Malazans and taking them to the tents. And I was thinking maybe this is something to increase the pool of their genetics, which if that's the case, I guess you could say that too much intermixing will water down the bloodline because they are a mix of Talani Mas and Toblakai.
Yeah.
This intermixing with the land peoples that don't have that background, I guess, would make them be more watered down.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's in a weird way. It's it keeps new blood coming into your clan.
Perrin grimaced. His gut was clenched in knots. When he slept, visions haunted his dreams. The chill cavern beneath the finest house, the carved stone flagstones with their ancient, depthless images from the deck of dragons. Even now, should he close his eyes and let his will fall away, he would feel himself falling into the hold of the beasts, the home of the Talani Mas and its vacant antlered throne. With a physical presence, tactile and rich with senses, as if he had bodily traveled to that place, he thought, and to that time, unless that time is now, and the throne remains waiting for a new occupant. Did it seem that way for the Emperor when he found himself before the throne of shadow? Power, domination over the Dreadhounds, all but a single step away? Twist said, "You are not well, Captain." Perrin glanced over at Twist. The only proof that a flesh and blood man was beneath that chitinous armor shell was the mangled hand that dangled lifeless from his right arm. Perrin thought, withered and crushed by the necromantic grasp of a Reeve spirit. That arm hangs dead. Slow but inevitable, the lifelessness will continue its climb to his shoulder, then into his chest. In a year this man will be dead. He'd need a god's healing touch to save him. And how likely is that? Perrin said, "I've an unsettled stomach." Twist said, "You deceive by understatement. As you wish. I will pry no further." After a moment, Perrin said, "I need you to do something, unless you and your quarrel are too weary." Twist said, "We are rested enough. Request, and it shall be done." Perrin drew a deep breath, then sighed and nodded. He said, "Good, I thank you." The difference in the way that Twist speaks and the Barghast that we've met so far, namely Hitan and Kafal, it seems like quite the stark contrast, doesn't it, in the verbiage they use and the way they talk?
Oh, absolutely. First off, the Barghast seem to be more, let's just say, loosely organized versus the Morants, who seem to be highly regimented and organized. So it's an odd thing that they're similar, but I'm sorry. What was the question again? I'm sorry, I kind of lost you in my theorizing there.
I was just saying the way they speak is markedly different.
Oh yeah. And that probably has to do with the regimentation, because the Barghast are a lot more just like, they're going to tell you what it is. This is the only Morant we've heard speak, really. Or is this the one that Whiskey Jack asked about?
Yeah, Twist, yes.
So only that one other one I can think of has really talked. And they're very terse. They're more terse than the Barghast.
Yeah, normally amongst themselves they speak with the clicking, and it's a little bit different. But
yeah,
I was just thinking the way Twist was saying, he said, "You deceive by understatement. As you wish, I will pry no further." How different that sounds than the way Hitan speaks.
They almost talk like the Grey Swords. Grey Swords were formal. There's a real formality to the way Twist speaks.
No, sir.
Oh,
are you ready to unfurl your wings, sir?
Wow. They're a little too serious.
They've toned it down a little bit. Or either that or I've gotten more used to it.
I think I've just gotten a little used. It's a little both. I think it's a both. It's the toning down and us getting used to.
A bruise of color showed on the eastern horizon, spreading through the clefts in the ridge of hills just south of the Barghast Mountains. This mention of the sun coming up in the east got me thinking about the decision for the Malazan world to be rotating the same direction as ours. I started looking things up. I was looking up how many planets in our solar system are rotating the same direction as Earth. And apparently they all do except for Venus.
Okay.
And then I was thinking, okay, what about galaxies? And then galaxies, it seems to be split about half and half, which direction they spin. But I was thinking about the basis of the decision to just mention that it's coming in the east like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's just simply to keep things simple and people can relate to the sun coming up in the east, so we don't have to explain that the rotation of the earth is different and all that kind of stuff?
It could be. I don't ever think about things that deeply, Kamraun. In all honesty,
Okay.
I'm like, maybe just to keep things kind of familiar.
Yeah, this is more of looking at it from the author's perspective, because I've been mulling over writing a book for 20 years or so. I think about the choices that authors make when they're doing stuff like this.
Okay.
I don't know. It's just a little rabbit hole I went down. I thought it was interesting.
It is interesting. I just don't have an answer.
Red-eyed and shivering in the chill, Perrin drew his quilted cloak higher as he surveyed the first stirrings in the massive, smoke-wreathed encampment filling the valley. He was able to pick out various clans by the barbaric standards rising above the seemingly haphazard layout of tents. Whiskey Jack's briefing had been thorough. Every time I... Thorough.
I know it. Thorough, Jeffrey. Thorough. He's a good man, and thorough.
Whiskey Jack's briefing had been thorough and held most of his attention on those that the commander had cited as being potential troublemakers. Keep it together, Billy.
I'm sorry.
To one side of the challenge clearing, where Trotz and Humbrol Tar's champion would fight in a short while, was the 1,000-strong camp of the Akrada, avowed enemies of the Ilgris clan, who now fought for Brood. They could prove difficult in the fashioning of an alliance. Humbrol Tar's closest rival was the war chief Marl Ebb, whose own Baran clan had arrived in strength. Over 10,000 weapon bearers, painted in red ochre and wearing bronze brigandine armor, their hair spiked and bristling with porcupine quills. There was the risk that Maral might contest Humbrol's position if an opportunity arose, and the night just past had seen over 50 duels between the Baran and Humbrol Tar's own Sinan warriors.
Wow.
Such a challenge could trigger an all-out war between the clans. To your point about a waste of life, 50 duels.
Yeah.
And that's 50 quite capable warriors, because they
Yes.
got to be cocky to have a duel, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. That's just from Humbrol's own people that these challenges have come and they fought. Now, I don't know how many he's lost and won. Yeah, it's a waste of life, man. It's a waste of good life, good warriors.
Yeah. Perhaps the strangest group of warriors Perrin had seen was the Gilk. Their hair was cut in stiff, narrow wedges, and they wore armor assembled from the plates of some kind of tortoise. Distinctively short and stout for Barghast, they looked to the captain to be a match for any heavy infantry they might face. Scores of minor tribes contributed to the confused mix that made up the white-faced nation. Mutually antagonistic and with long-standing feuds and rivalries, it was a wonder that Humbrol Tar had managed to draw them all together, and more or less keep the peace for 4 days and counting. There is such diversity among these tribes.
Yeah.
They're all so different from each other.
Yeah, very different. Very, I mean, even down to these kind of shorter fellas with the tortoise armor. You know, they obviously, this group is obviously known for being shorter. I mean, it's very wide range, wide group of people here. I like it.
Perrin thought, and today is the crux. Even if Trotz wins the duel, full acceptance is not guaranteed. Bloody eruptions could follow, and if he loses, Perrin pulled his thoughts away from that possibility. A voice wailed to greet the dawn, and suddenly the camps were alive with silent, rising figures. The muted clank of weapons and armor followed, amidst the barking of dogs and nasal bellowing of geese. As if the challenge clearing drew an invisible breath, warriors began converging towards it. Man, I hope the Bridgeburners reserve their seats at the arena. Sounds like it could be tough to get close with the number of people that are there.
Oh yeah, yeah. You're gonna have to find a tree and climb up in to see over that bunch. I don't think you're getting in there.
Yeah. It was 100,000 that gathered here, right?
Yeah, and I imagine half of them are going to the arena to look and fight.
Yeah.
If not 3/4.
I don't imagine it's like a stadium type thing, so it'd be real hard to be able to see it.
Yeah.
Perrin glanced over to see his Bridgeburners slowly gathering themselves. 30-odd Malazans. Perrin knew they were determined to put up a fight if things went wrong. Knew as well that the struggle would be short-lived. He scanned the lightning sky, eyes narrowing to the southwest in the hopes that he would see a dark speck. Twist in his quarrel, fast approaching, but there was no sign. A deeper silence among the Barghast alerted Perrin. He turned to see Humbrol Tar striding through the press to take position in the center of the clearing. This was the closest Perrin had come to the man since their arrival. The warrior was huge, bestial, bedecked in the withered, hair-matted skins of deboned human heads. That is a ghastly image right there.
That is just nasty. It's just really nasty.
Yeah, no two ways about it, man. Humbroltar's hauberk of overlapping coins glittered in the morning light. The hoard of ancient, unknown money that the Sinan stumbled across sometime in the past must have been huge, for every warrior in the tribe wore such armor. Perrin thought there must have been shiploads of the damned things, that or an entire temple filled to its ceiling. The war chief wasted no time with words. He unslung the spiked mace at his hip and raised it skyward, slowly turning full circle. All eyes held on him, the elite warriors from all tribes ringing the clearing, the rest massed behind them, all the way to the valley slopes. Humbroltar paused as a witless dog trotted across the expanse. A well-flung stone sent it scampering with a yelp. The war chief growled something under his breath, then gestured with his weapon. Perrin watched Trotz emerge from the crowd. He wore the standard-issue Malazan armor for Marines, studded boiled leather with iron bands over the shoulders and hips. His half-helm had been collected from a dead officer among the soldiers of Erin in 7 cities. Bridgeguard and cheek plates bore a filigree design of inlaid silver. A chain camel protected the sides and back of his neck. A round shield was strapped to his left forearm, the hand protected by a spiked, iron-banded cestus. A straight, blunt-tipped broadsword was in his right hand. His arrival elicited low growls from the gathered Barghast, which Trotz answered with a hard grin, revealing blue-stained, filed teeth. Humbroltar eyed him for a moment, as if disapproving of Trotz's choice of Malazan weapons over those of the Barghast. Then he swung in the opposite direction and gestured once more with the mace. His youngest son emerged from the circle. Perrin had not known what to expect, but the sight of this scrawny, grinning youth wearing only leathers with a single short hook knife in his right hand did not match any of the images he had fashioned. He thought, what is this? Some kind of twisted insult? Does Tar want to ensure his own defeat at the cost of his youngest son's life? The warriors on all sides began thumping their feet on the hard earth, raising a rhythmic drumbeat that echoed its way across the valley. The unnamed youth sauntered into the circle to stand opposite Trotz, 5 paces between them. Eyeing the bridge burner from head to toe, the boy's smile broadened. Beside Perrin, a voice hissed, "Captain!" Perrin turned and said, "Corporal Aimless, isn't it? What can I do for you? And be quick." The lean, stooped soldier's habitually dour expression was even bleaker than usual. He said, "We were just wondering, sir, if this scrap goes bad, I mean. Well, me and a few others. We've been hoarding some Maranth munitions. Cussers, too, sir. We got 5 of those at hand. We could open something of a path. See that knoll over there? A good place, we figured, to withdraw to and hold up. Those steep sides." Under his breath, Perrin growled, "Stow it, Corporal. My orders haven't changed. Everyone sits tight." Aimless said, "Sure, he's a runt, sir, but what if—" Perrin said, "You heard me, soldier." Aimless bobbed his head and said, "Yes, sir. It's just that, some 9, maybe 10, well, they're muttering about maybe doing whatever they please and to hood with you, sir."
Wow.
Perrin pulled his gaze away from the 2 motionless warriors in the circle and met Aimless's watery eyes. He said, "And you are their spokesperson, Aimless?" Aimless said, "No, not me, sir. I ain't got no opinion. I never did. Never do, in fact, Captain. No, not me. I'm just here telling you what's going on among the squads right now, that's all." Perrin said, "And there they all are, watching you and me having this conversation, which is how they wanted it. You're the mouth, Corporal, whether you like it or not. This is one instance where I probably should kill the messenger, if only to rid myself of his stupidity." Aimless's dour expression clouded. He slowly said, "I wouldn't try that, sir. The last captain that drew his sword on me, I broke his neck." Dude.
Wow.
He's even admitting it? Oh my God.
Yeah. Tell us how you really feel. Well, he's a scary one. He's a sociopath one.
I think he's just too dumb to realize otherwise.
That could be it, too.
He's admitting to killing a superior officer.
The Aimless, his name is appropriate. I mean, it's just like people probably use him because he's got nothing but oh, golly. But yeah, I wouldn't want to get on this bad side, though.
Perrin raised an eyebrow. He thought, "Burn friend me. I underestimate even the true idiots in this company." Perrin said, "Try showing some restraint this time, Corporal. Go back and tell your comrades to hold tight until I give the signal. Tell them there's no way we're going down without a fight, but trying a breakout when the Barghasts most expect it will see us die fast." Aimless asked, "You want me to say all that, sir?" Perrin said, "In your own words, if you like." Aimless sighed and said, "That's easy then. I'll go now, Captain." Perrin said, "You do that, Corporal." Returning his attention to the circle, Perrin saw that Humbroltar had moved to stand directly between the 2 contestants. If he addressed them, it was brief and under his breath, for he then stepped back, once more raising the mace overhead. The thumping dance of the masked warriors ceased. Trotz swung his shield to the ready, dropping his left leg back and positioning his sword in a tight guard position. The youth's sloppy stance did not change, the knife held loosely at his side. Humbrol Tar reached one edge of the ring. He waved the mace one final time over his head, then lowered it. The duel had begun. Trot stepped back, crouching low with the shield rim just under his eyes. The blunt tip of his broadsword edged outward as he half extended his arm. The youth pivoted to face him, the knife in his hand making slight bobbing, snake-head motions. At some unseen shift in weight from Trot's, he danced lithely to the left, blade wavering in a haphazard, desultory defense, but Trot's did not come forward. 10 paces still remained between them. Perrin thought, every move the lad makes tells Trot's more, fills out the tactical map. What the boy reacts to, what makes him hesitate, tauten, withdraw. Every shift in weight, the play over the ground and the balls of his feet, and Trot's has yet to move. The youth edged closer, approaching at an angle that Trot's matched only with his shield. Another step. Trot's sword slid out to the side. The lad skittered back, then he neared again, sharpening the angle. Like a stolid infantryman, Trot swung round to replant his feet, and the Barghast attacked. A snort gusted from Perrin as Trot's heavy-footedness vanished. Negating his own advantage in height, Trot's met the lashing assault from low behind his shield, surging forward unexpectedly into the lad's high-bladed attack. Hook knife glanced without strength off Trot's helm. Then the heavy round shield hammered into the boy's chest, throwing him back. The youth struck the ground, skidding, raising a cloud of dust as he tumbled and rolled. A fool would have pursued, only to find the lad's knife slashing through the sunlit cloud. But Trot simply settled back behind his shield. The youth emerged from the swirling dust, face powdered, knife wavering. His smile remained. Perrin thought, not a style the lad's used to. Trot could well be standing frontline in a phalanx, shoulder to shield with hard-eyed Malazan infantry. More than one barbaric horde has been deflowered and cut to pieces against that deadly human wall. These white faces have never experienced an imperial engagement. The lithe Barghast began a swift, darting dance, circling Trot's, edging in then back out, playing with the bright sunlight and flashes on weapon and armor, kicking up clouds of dust. In answer, Trot simply pivoted in one of 4 facings. He had become his own square and waited, again and again seeming to hold a position too long before shifting, each time stamping the methodical steps of the Malazan infantry drill like a thick-skulled recruit. He ignored every feint, would not be pulled forward by the lad's moments of imbalance and awkwardness, which were themselves illusory. The ring of warriors had begun shouting their frustration. This was not a duel as they knew duels. Trotz would not play the lad's game. Perrin thought, he is now a soldier of the Empire, and that is the addendum to his tale. The youth launched another attack, his blade blurring in a wild skein of feints, then slashing low, seeking Trot's right knee, the hinge in the armor's joint. The shield came down, driving the knife away. Broadsword slashed horizontally for the boy's head. He ducked lower, hook blade dropped down to slash ineffectually across the toe cap of Trot's boot. Trot snapped his shield into the boy's face. The youth reeled, blood spraying from his nose. Yet his knife rose unerringly, skirting the rim of the shield as if following a hissing guide to dig deep into the armor's joint hinge of Trot's left arm, the hook biting, then tearing through ligaments and veins.
Ow.
Trotz chopped down with his broadsword, severing the lad's knife hand at the wrist. Blood poured from the 2 warriors, yet the close-in engagement was not yet complete. Perrin watched in amazement as the youth's left hand shot up, stiff-fingered, beneath the chin guard of Trot's helmet. A strange popping sound came from Trot's throat. Shield arm falling senseless in a welter of blood, knees buckling, Trotz sank to the ground. Trot's final gesture was a lightning-quick sweep of his broadsword across the lad's stomach. Sleek flesh parted and the youth looked down in time to see his intestines tumble into view in a gush of fluids. He convulsed around them, pitched to the ground. That one attack that gets Trot's arm always makes me cringe. That hook blade can do some nasty damage.
But yeah, it talks about grabbing the ligaments and the veins. You know, the veins are going to get cut like that, but the ligaments, but this whole section, especially with Trotz, and especially, I don't know why for some reason, sometimes that's about to come up here in a second too, but that felt the young, Humbrol Tar's youngest one, even still managing to pop him up under the neck like that is always so core. Because it's such an important section of the book in a way. You kind of forget it until we get back into it.
Yeah, the core thing for me was the choice to bring the Malazan equipment and use their tactics in this duel.
Yes.
That will always really stuck with me. And then also that hook knife going in the arm.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, that's the injury that really sticks out to me in this.
Yes. Oh, Yeah. The veins is one thing, but the ligaments, it's like that's not coming back without healing. That's just not coming back.
Mm.
And there's a point, I'll mention it here in just a minute when we get down to something with Trots that's one of the things that stands out the most in this chapter. It maybe stands out for you, but not in the same way.
Okay. Trots lay before the dying boy, clawing frantically at his throat, legs kicking. Perrin lurched forward, but one of his bridge burners was quicker. Mulch, a minor healer from the 11th Squad, raced into the circle to Trot's side. A small flick blade flashed in the soldier's hand as he straddled Trots and pushed his head back to expose the throat. Perrin thought, what in Hood's name? There was pandemonium on all sides. The circle was dissolving as Barghast warriors surged forward, weapons out, yet clearly confused as to what they should do with them. Perrin's head snapped round to see his bridge burners contracting within a ring of shrieking, belligerent savages. Perrin thought, gods, it's all coming down. A horn cut through the cacophony. Faces turned. Sinan warriors were reasserting the sanctity of the circle, bellowing as they pushed the other tribesmen and women back. Humbrol Tar had once more raised high his mace, a silent yet inescapable demand for order. Voices rose from the Barghast surrounding the company of bridge burners, and Perrin saw Moranth munitions held high in the hands of his soldiers. The Barghast were recoiling, drawing lances back to throw. Perrin shouted, bridge burners! Striding towards them. He shouted, put those damn things away, now! The horn sounded a second time. Faces turned. The deadly grenados disappeared once more beneath rain capes and cloaks. When he reached them, Perrin growled, stand at ease! In a lower voice, he snapped, hold fast, you damn fools. Nobody's counted on a hood damn draw. Keep your wits. Corporal Aimless, go to Mulch and find out what in Feiner's name he did with that flick blade. And get the bad news on Trots. I know. He looked done for. But so's the lad. Who knows, maybe it's a question of who dies first. One of the sergeants cut in. Captain, they were going to have at us, sir, that's all. We wasn't planning on nothing. We was waiting for your signal, sir. Perrin said, glad to hear it. Now keep your eyes open, but stay calm, while I go confer with Humbrol Tar. Perrin swung round and headed towards the circle. The Barghast warchief's face was gray, his gaze returning again and again to the small figure now ominously motionless on the stained ground a dozen paces away. A half-dozen minor chiefs clustered around Humbrol, each shouting to make himself heard above his rival. Tar was ignoring them one and all. As I imagine he would be, he just lost his youngest son.
Yeah.
That's got to be a tough situation to be in where the youngest is always the spoiled one.
Yeah, they are, but I would think that at the same time, you got to be prepared for it if you're going to, you got to be a realist, I would hope.
Yeah, that's true. But still, a parent losing their kid, for him to keep composed.
It's got to be tough. Oh, yeah. I'm impressed with Tower. And the thing is, I agree in reference to, because remember, this is that's Heaton's brother, little brother.
Hitan's youngest brother, yeah.
Yeah, Hitan, so she lost a brother, or they've lost another one that he knows nothing about. But I appreciate what the Grey Swords had said about wanting to, yes, but wanting to know what about this, kind of wanted to meet Tar. He was impressed with her. He sounded very impressed with her father. This does impress you because of the fact of what's going on right now. He's still maintaining his composure and keeping it together.
You're saying Akovian was saying that, right? That he wanted to meet Humbrol Tar?
Yes. He seemed very impressed with her with talking about her daddy. And so he is like, I would like to meet this man someday. He's like, I'm very impressed with him. I sense no condescension in that either when he said that.
No, not at all. Because he was talking to Kafal about it, and Kafal said that Hitan was the most like their father, and then that prompted Akovian to say that.
Yeah.
Perrin pushed through the crowd. A glance to his right showed Aimless crouched down beside Mulch. The healer had a hand pressed tight against the wound in Trott's left arm and seemed to be whispering under his breath, his eyes closed. Slight movements from Trott's revealed that the bridge burner still lived, and, Perrin realized, he had ceased his thrashing around. Somehow, Mulch had given him a means of drawing breath. Perrin shook his head in disbelief. Crush a man's throat and he dies. He thought, unless there's a high Denul healer nearby, and Mulch isn't. He's a cutter with a handful of cantrips at his disposal. The man's pulled off a miracle. Humbrol Tar shouted, Malazan! His small, flat eyes were fixed on Perrin. He gestured and said, we must speak, you and I. He switched from Daru to bellow at the warriors crowding him. They withdrew, scowling, casting venomous glares towards Perrin. A moment later, Perrin and the Barghast warchief stood face to face. Humbrol Tar studied him for a moment, then said, your warriors think little of you. Soft blood, they say. Perrin shrugged and said, they're soldiers. I'm their new officer. Humbrol Tar said, they are disobedient. You should kill one or two of them. Then the others will respect you. Perrin said, it's my task to keep them alive, not kill them, warchief. Humbrol Tar's eyes narrowed. He said, your Barghast fought in the style of you foreigners. He did not fight as kin to us. 23 duels, my unnamed son, without loss, without so much as a wound. I have lost one of my blood, a great warrior.
What do you call him if he's got no name? Hey. Hey.
That's a good point.
No, hey, you.
I guess you have to go through the death rite or whatever it's called to get a name.
The coffin barrel with the hallucinogens. Yeah. It's like taking a fistful of LSD and dropping in a coffin. Yeah, no, thank you.
I'll tell you what, Billy. I don't even know if having a name helps sometimes, because my dad used to do this where he'd mix up my brother and my name when he's getting on to us, and I do it with my kids where I can't think of the right name. So did that ever happen to you and your dad with your siblings?
No, but there's a Bill Cosby joke that accompanies this, and it's filthy, but it's strangely enough, if he talks about it, he goes, I thought my name was, growing up, I thought, and this is an old joke, I thought my name was JC, and my brother thought his name was GD. Because my father would say, get over here. And, and my father never knew our names at all. He just called us this and that.
Wow.
My father may have done that. I was so terrified of my father, it didn't matter what he said. I knew he was talking to me, and I knew I was scared, and I should be terrified.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And I was.
Right. Parents said, Trots lives still. Humbroltar said, he should be dead. Crush a man's throat and the convulsions take him. He should not have been able to swing his sword. My son sacrificed a hand to kill him. Parents said, a valiant effort, war chief. Humbroltar said, in vain, it seems. Do you claim that Trots will survive his wounds? Parents said, I don't know. I need to confer with my healer. After a moment, Humbroltar said, the spirits are silent, Malazan. They wait, as must we. Parents said, your council of chiefs might not agree with you. Humbroltar scowled and said, that is a matter for the Barghast. Return to your company, Malazan. Keep them alive, if you can. Perrin asked, does our fate rest on Trots surviving, war chief? The huge warrior bared his teeth and said, not entirely. I am done with you now. He turned his back on Perrin. The other chiefs closed in once again. Man, what a way to dismiss someone. I am done with you now.
Yeah, I'm done with you now. It's better. Who smacked Mebra across the face? At least it wasn't one of those dismissals.
Tene Beralta.
Yeah. Tene Beralta.
Let me caress the other side of your face.
Yeah. At least it wasn't one of those dismissals. So that's known in this world as a pimp slap. So he was not dismissed with that. So
true. Perrin pulled away, fighting a resurgence of pain in his stomach, and strode to where Trots lay. Eyes on the Barghast warrior, he crouched down beside the healer, Mulch. There was a hole between Trot's collarbones, home to a hollow bone tube that whistled softly as he breathed. The rest of his throat was crumpled, a mass of green and blue bruising. Trot's eyes were open, aware, and filled with pain.
This is the really core part I was talking about, but I want to cover this a little bit more in the end when we talk about highlights.
Okay, got it. Was it my mention of the tracheotomy?
Very much so.
Okay. Mulch glanced over and quietly said, I've healed the vessels and tendons in his arm. He won't lose it, I think. It'll be weaker, though, unless Mallet gets here soon. Perrin pointed at the bone tube and asked, what in Hood's name is that, healer? Mulch said, it ain't easy playing with warrens right now, sir. Besides, I ain't good enough to fix anything like that anyway. It's a cutter's trick. Learned it from Bullet when I was in the 6th Army. He was always figuring out ways of doing things without magic, since he could never find his warren when things got hot. Perrin said, looks temporary. Mulch said, aye, Captain. We need Mallet. Soon. Perrin stood and said, that was fast work, Mulch. Well done. Mulch said, thanks, sir. Perrin said, Corporal Aimless. Aimless said, Captain. Perrin said, get some soldiers down here. I don't want any Barghast getting too close to Trots. When Mulch gives the word, move him back to our camp. Aimless said, aye, sir. Perrin watched the soldier hurry off. Then he faced south and scanned the sky. He muttered, Hood's breath, with plaintive relief. Mulch rose and said, you sent Twist to find him, didn't you, sir? Look, he's got a passenger. Probably quick Ben, though. Perrin slowly smiled, squinting at the distant black speck above the ridgeline. He said, not if Twist followed my orders, healer. Mulch looked over and said, Mallet. Feiner's hoof. That was a good play, Captain. Perrin met Mulch's gaze and said, nobody dies on this mission, Mulch. Mulch slowly nodded, then knelt once again to tend to Trots. I think Perrin just earned +1 loyalty point there.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. You ever see Scott Pilgrim versus the World?
I've tried to get into that movie a couple times, couldn't do it.
Okay.
I think I get like 5 minutes in and I'm just like, yeah.
I don't know why I like it, but I do. But that happens when he fights the bosses. He gets points. You see these points racking up on these things. And he does get like a 1-up at one point, like an extra life. And I was like, But I can just see that above Perrin's head when you said that, like, bling, bling. It's got a little chime to it, you know?
Would it go over Perrin's head or would it go over his company's head?
I think it would go over his company's head.
All right. We're going to stop there. We'll finish out the chapter next week. For standout moments, all the bridge burner hijinks between the hair shirt fire, the veteran bull chasing after Deterin, Hedge getting beat up by Deterin, Picker enjoying getting antsy, all riled up, all that stuff.
All of this, I agree. It's just brilliant. It's hilarious. It's fantastic. And in a way, we have seen these fellas, and they got into some shenanigans in Brood's camp, but we didn't really get into them here until this is where I felt like we really kind of get to know these people. And it's just, we just didn't get to see these craziness in their personalities. I just love it, dude. Just love it.
Finding out the spread of the infection in the Warrens is causing Mallet to have problems using his Warren.
Right.
In addition to that, finding out that the crippled god is using this as a means of counteracting magic.
Yeah. That's awful. And it's especially brilliant, though. It's just really well done, Cripple God. I'm impressed.
Yeah, using what tools he has available to him.
Yeah. I'm impressed, man. I'm impressed. You're like me, though. Me and you, we love a good villain, man. And it's like, okay, he's got some respect points for me on that one. It scares me. It's like, wow, okay, that's pretty powerful, dude.
Yeah, this is the first book where they're really building out that character, I feel.
Yeah.
Didn't get too much of him in the prior books.
Yeah, that's true.
I really enjoyed seeing more of the Barghast culture, particularly how diverse it is amongst the tribes, and then just learning a little bit more about their practices and their rituals.
Yeah, I agree. I love all the care he puts into these peoples and how diverse they are. And I just love, it's so much of what makes Erikson's world so real and so alive. I mean, not just the soldier interactions, these peoples. You know, he has whole, I'm always blown away by his tribal people. I think that particularly starts with my love with the Wiccans, is where that really ignited so much of that tribal love of the Malazan world.
Yeah, definitely. The duel between Trotz and Humbroltar's nameless son, that's quite the core memory, as we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, it's true core, yeah.
And the stark contrast between their attire and the methods of their fighting.
That is very intriguing, because even amongst our own, what little I know of our Native American tribes, they were similarly inclined in weapons. Now, you might have people favor a certain weapon over another, but for the most part, they all kind of, in my mind, use very similar things. And these guys sound really, really diverse. You got the short guys with the tortoise armor. You got the guys with the bad haircuts. You got these other, you got all these groups. It's great. It's great stuff, man.
Yeah, one of the tribes was mentioned having bone plugs in their nose and their ears and stuff like that.
So very interesting to see these guys all together.
Aimless admitting that he had killed a Malazan captain that had pulled a sword on him to his current captain. Craziness.
Yeah, and the casualness of it. So I wouldn't do that, sir. The last guy that did that, I broke his neck.
He's too dumb to realize what he's saying.
Well, there's that. It's like but it's almost like he felt bad. I had to break the guy's neck. I didn't enjoy it, but I broke the guy's neck because he pulled a sword on me. It's almost like, so that's kind of spooky. Is he related to a certain group?
It's almost like of mice and men.
Yeah. Very much so.
That's the impression I got.
Go pet them rabbits. It's like, Oh.
And then finally, Mulch giving Trotz a field tracheotomy to save the day.
Yeah. Now, that's what I was going to talk about, the big-time core memory for me. And I wonder, because Mr. Erikson and I are pretty close in age, I believe. And I grew up watching MASH with my parents, and the first episode of MASH I ever saw was a guy getting a field tracheotomy because their Jeep got blown up and the guy's choking to death, and we have to walk Radar, of all people, who's not a surgeon, through basically taking an eyedropper end off a jar and taking some scissors and popping a hole in this guy's throat and stabbing that through. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's what.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Field tracheotomies always stand out to me because that's one of my first memories of television as a kid. And it wasn't gruesome, but it was kind of like, it was very like, what? My parents were like, that's so he can breathe. I'm like, oh. And when I realized what it was doing for the guy, I'm like, that's kind of cool. That's kind of wild. So that ties that together for me big time.
Mm-hmm. All right. Great job tonight, Billy.
Hey, man, great job, Anna. Really good episode.
You got any final thoughts before you drop off here?
Oh, I do. Oh, great job for you, brother. But it's such a great chapter here. Last chapter we had a lot of necessary exposition, and it was good. But we had a lot of exposition here with the soldiers. But that stuff, that fight with Trots and the no-name son, is just that just always so sticks out with me because it's such an important as we get around this part, it's going to be a big deal.
Yeah. There was one other thing I forgot to add in the standout moments. It was Blend picking up on the fact that maybe they aren't as excommunicated from the Malazan Empire as they were putting on.
Yeah.
That was quite astute of her to put that together.
I was going to say very astute, and maybe it's made me really like Blend a lot. And it shows you what just standing back in the shadows and watching people will teach you. Sometimes just keeping your mouth shut, you learn a lot more. And these are lessons I still have to learn a lot of times too.
Yeah. All right, thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
And we'll see y'all next week.
We thank you all for joining us today.
Again, we really like to thank you for taking the time to be with us, and we've had a really great time talking about the topic today.
If you would like to support our show, you can find us at horsefrogproductions.com, where you can find our Patreon link. Depending on the platform you're listening from, it may also be in the episode description.
And if you'd like to contact us through email, it's at contact@horsefrogproductions.com.